I wonder if they see the sparkle in your eyes. I wonder if they know that I'm not your guy. I wonder if they see that you don't belong to me. Wish that you could be mine.
Yo, what's up, everyone? Therapy Without a Degree, I think this is chapter 197. Chapter 197, we here. Joe Fugurino to the right of me.
Natalie, hey.
Hey.
What's up?
We got Zane. He's here. He's back from Cali.
Right.
This is the first episode back. Yeah.
Oh, sweet. I'm actually not behind the camera, so that's awesome.
Yes. We put him to work every once in a while.
That's hilarious.
That's nice.
What's up, yo? What y'all been up to?
Well, I know you guys have been up to.
Right.
Yes, having fun in California. Talk a little bit about that, because that looked awesome. They even posted videos on YouTube for you guys to see.
You're right.
Nah, we had fun. We went to the Hollywood sign and whatnot. What else happened? What I can remember. But yeah, it was a green state, I would say.
Oh my
That's all
God.
he
green,
knows.
green
That's
state
all
of
he
mind.
knows. He just like it was green. That's it.
Yeah, I like the food. They were saying the food was trash out there, but it's like I had no problem with the food.
I feel like California is too big to have trash food. Like
Right.
it spans the most of the West Coast, so
But
you
I
can
guess
find
people
so
are
many good food.
I guess because if you visit, we're not tired, but like if you're there all the time, it's like but so much you could like eat out like tacos and like
Oh damn! Really?
yeah, like it's like that's how we have halal trucks
Yeah,
on one.
yeah.
They have like the taco trucks over there. So that's like so I guess if people are tired of that, but like you have other food there. So I was
Yeah.
like, I don't see how that's a problem. So it's, oh, the food is trash out here. I'm like, how?
Yeah, how is right.
Y'all got like
I think what they mean is there's no like
Variety.
no food.
What kind of food they looking for? They got steak. They got like all that other stuff.
But like, you know how over here we have so many options to where we can go to Napoli right now, down the block, the pizzeria, and get like a bomb ass sandwich.
Yeah, but I was gonna say but New Jersey's different.
Yeah,
But
you
that-
can't compare
Jersey's a
New
different
Jersey.
breed.
That's
We
what
have
they do,
pizza.
though.
We have
have a lot of
good
stuff.
pizza. We have like I feel like New Jersey has the best pizza.
We
not,
definitely
not
do
even
have the
just
best
pizza
pizza.
though, like Spanish restaurants,
Yeah, Spanish
like
restaurants. Yeah, Latin restaurants. Asian restaurants.
you know how you could just go and like you get some food,
Authentic every time too.
like yeah, like that is official.
I don't see how that's any different in California, to be honest.
I can't speak on California.
Yeah, you haven't gone. Yeah, nah. You know what it is? Everything is so far. So if you go to like, it's like whatever community you go to, that's the only food you get.
Oh, I could see.
That's
you're
what it
saying.
ends up being. Like, so if you go to this community, you're only gonna get that type of food. You know what I'm saying?
That's
It's not like
interesting.
it's like all right, this community is
Yeah,
gonna
that's
have different
interesting.
types.
Yeah.
That's I think that's what I saw.
Or it's
That's
super
what
hidden.
I got from that at first. That's why I'm like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
It could just be an issue of food deserts too, where where you're in a community where, like you said, you're limited to where you can go or how far you can go,
Right.
and you kind of have to stick with what you can get.
Yeah, based on
And
where
that
you live.
community might be heavily influenced by Latinx food, or might be
Mhm.
heavily influenced by Caribbean food, or this or that, and it's like, then
Yeah.
I don't want to eat that anymore.
Exactly, especially where you live, and
I'm
everything
done.
is like 20 minutes out. So it's like, all right, wherever I'm here, that means I have to drive 20 minutes out, and that could be like an hour. And at that point, I'm like, I'm just gonna eat the food that's around. And then I think that's probably why people are frustrated. Over here, we don't have to worry about that. Like literally over here, we could literally try like sushi, pizza,
Yeah.
and this is just one town,
I was just gonna say
Within
within
a
like
2 mile,
one.
within a 2 mile
I
radius.
was just gonna say that. Yep.
right? So and then Passaic, we already you already know
It doesn't matter.
so
We have
many
so
varieties
food.
out
we have
there.
from Jewish halal food
Right.
all the way down to like really good Chinese food. I'm saying like a good ass Chinese food. Come on,
Within
guys. Thai food.
right
Come on,
in the same town.
in the same town.
Everything.
Within a couple blocks away. So
And I think
I'll take
that's
that.
why.
yeah,
That makes sense. All
That-
right, I think
that's
we
just
solved the problem.
Yeah, and it's just hidden over there. You know,
Right.
everyone that like I speak to is like, yeah, we know the spots, but it's like,
It's like an
Those
underground
hole in the spot-
speakeasy.
Yeah.
easy for food. That's
nah,
funny.
it's like,
Wait a
nah,
minute. That might be a good idea.
So what is like your guys like while we're on the topic of food, because I love food. I could talk about food for hours. I did it with my client yesterday. We like talked about food for like 3 hours. What is your favorite kind of style of food, or your top 3
styles of food?
Yeah.
Meaning what? Give me an example.
Like
Or just actual
for
food?
example, if you were just saying, hey, like I prefer Asian food, or I prefer Dominican food, or I prefer, you know, sushi and, you know, Italian food and this and that, like what would be your top 3?
All right, so my top of all time is like finger food, like appetizer food.
Like what?
Like, I don't want to say Italian because my favorite food is pizza, but I'm not crazy about a lot of Italian food.
Right.
Like, I'm kind of just like, I think the average person. Like, I like the chicken parm and like, you know, like stuff like that. Like lasagna's cool, but I'm not crazy about mad Italian dishes. But I do love finger food. Like, I love wings.
I can see that.
I love me some good wings. I
Yeah.
love me, like, we went out the other day, I got the quesadilla.
Ooh, yes.
Like,
Right.
finger,
Little
like,
tacos, wontons.
yeah, like, I'm like an appetizer kind of guy. So I guess that's what you would call it, finger foods,
Cool,
maybe?
yeah. Appetizers. Yeah, finger foods. I could see that.
That's my number one.
Ooh,
Like, if I could just generalize it.
yeah.
What about you?
I'm curious as you.
Sushi,
know.
sushi for me.
Oh.
Sushi, like if we want to take like one dish
Or
in
Asian,
particular,
or
I would
like
just
like a style. Yeah, what would you say is
style.
like
It doesn't matter what style as long as it's sushi. And then in terms of steak, it just like if you're gonna pick a dish, I would say steak. But like overall, different varieties, I would say sushi. So sushi and steak.
I like sushi too. See, I'm stuck between you guys because I love finger food. Like my top 3 is probably like us together. Like it's like
Word, yeah.
it's like
So if we're out, then
like
we know.
dope ass finger foods. No, sir, I love sushi. I love sushi. My favorite is fire dragon roll. That's like
Oh.
my favorite.
What's that? That one that has like shrimp in there or something?
It has shrimp, tempura, salmon, and then it has like a spicy sriracha sauce on it
Yeah.
with like a mayonnaise or
I think
something
you
like
would kind
that.
of
It's really good.
I would think you would consider that finger food too, though.
Nah.
Nope. I guess
you have
that's
to use a
meal.
chopstick, or like some people don't use it. They use a fork, but
Yeah.
like it's so
But that's
odd.
a full meal though.
Yeah,
like,
it's a
You
meal.
know, as
Yeah.
opposed to saying like, all right, I'm gonna get like one. We're debating like meals and appetizers, but like,
it's
but like, yeah. So like,
I always thought of it as like an appetizer.
that's
like,
interesting. I never.
Nah, that's a
thought
full
about it
meal
like
because the
that.
Like,
rice
that's-
fills you up, and then the meat
It is,
inside
it's
it's just
very
cut
good.
up into pieces.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
But it's like this much of a portion.
Right.
Like that.
Like I was about to order sushi fucking today.
Like this guy, yeah, you get it a lot. And I've been looking
Yeah.
at you like, Tuesday, that's it. Like, it always seems like you
That's
just getting-
honestly that's like the easiest way for me to proportion like what I'm gonna eat. To be honest, because sometimes it gets out of hand. Like they don't put like a lot of rice. Because I will, and I'm like as a in a Caribbean household, whatever food's on your plate, you gotta finish it. So like if you have a mound of rice and some chicken, you gotta finish all that. So by seeing how much rice that they put, it's not a lot, but I can visually manage like how much I can eat, opposed to like just like engorge and
Yeah.
just eating a
Yeah.
whole
Yeah,
bowl
because
of
you
rice.
see the little pieces, you know, you're
Yeah.
like, all right,
Yeah.
I'm good with 4 little pieces.
For sure.
Right, exactly. So that's why I like it personally. Plus, it just tastes amazing.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I love stuff like that. I love any Latin or Caribbean food. Like for me, I can do that shit any day of the week.
Oxtail.
7 days a fucking week. Yo. I never had oxtail before until my
Oh.
mother until my brother-in-law's mother made it, who's Haitian, and she made it her style. She made pickles, which if you're Haitian, you know what that is, which is like basically like a Caribbean style super spicy coleslaw. It's like it has like jalapeno juice in it. Like it's like amazing. I've never had anything like it. Over some rice, stop. I love anything like that. So I'm cool with those appetizers, sushi, and like really good Caribbean food.
June makes really good steak.
He does make really good steak, but I can't do that all the time. I'll die.
No?
But when he wants to cook, I just let him cook the steak.
You let him make it.
Well, now
Yeah.
I've noticed
I'm not
a
gonna
lot,
make the steak.
a lot
You
of
could
a lot of
finish
women can't eat beef, like steak.
I'm not into it. You know what it is? For me, if I do it like once or twice a month, that's cool. But I can't make it.
It makes you sick?
No, it makes my stomach hurt.
And that's
I'm
all I've
mostly
been
eating
hearing.
chicken and fish. Like my diet mostly consists of like chicken and fish
Have
and
you
a lot of
noticed
vegetables
that? Like,
and rice.
like there's people that just can't, and it's like people eat the steak. It's
Yeah.
like me, I'll eat steak. I'm not gonna like I'll say if I have a problem with something, but I don't.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's like my mom, she can't like if I were to bring like a steak like a cheesesteak or something like that, with minus the cheese or something like that. She just can't have anything steak related.
That's awesome. I think it just has to do with how our bodies, like our
Like
individual
process.
bodies, metabolize it. Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, maybe just the way men have evolved. It's just like you guys burn fat a little bit quicker, or
Right.
I don't know. I'm not really that into it. I only eat the steak June makes. So you're lucky.
Kudos.
It's good steak.
Hey.
It's awesome steak,
The
especially
plug.
on the grill. Come on.
It's like a little at name that shows up.
Zane, maybe after this we'll go to Longhorn.
to Longhorn.
I mean, no, my treat.
I love
You
your
said
slow
no-
blink.
Listen.
It's
Like he does the slow blink. Like
committed.
yeah.
He's like,
I was
So
like,
there
say
was
no more.
there was this show back in the day, and I don't know if it's still on TV now, but it was called like My Cat from Hell, and this fucking guy would like talk to the cats, and he'd be like, slow blink at them if you want to.
I didn't even know I do that.
Yeah, you
He'd
do
be
that.
like this. He'd take his glasses off and be like at the cat until
Because
the
I know
fucking-
how his stomach
That
feels
was- that
when
was
he hears
commitment.
food, and it's just like.
Yes.
I already stopped talking. I was like, steak?
Oh, that's awesome.
I got you, bro. I got you.
Alright.
See, I'll take you there. I'm not gonna take you to a wedding.
Yeah, he won't let me go to a wedding with him, but he's gonna treat me to a steak dinner. That's
Why?
crazy.
She's so confused. She's like, wait a minute.
I was just, me, I'm like, my sense of humor is like really like out there. So I was looking at him, I was like, so.
No,
like,
well,
I'm
hold
not
on. We gotta
going?
tell the story from the beginning.
Please give
This
me
is gonna be
context.
we need
because-
context here. So, there's a really special person that I asked. I was like, go to a wedding with me, and I was like, yeah, we're gonna see. She's gonna let me know. She might have to go to a wedding on the same day, whatever. And he was like, why you ain't asked me to go to the wedding? and I was so baffled. I think we had this conversation at the park, like before you got there, after we left.
Oh,
Just
No, it was
like-
actually while she was standing there, right? and you
you
were
on the
talking to
phone.
Mel on the
or
phone.
something.
Yeah.
And he's just like so serious. He's like, why didn't you ask me? I'm like, I tried to hire you for the wedding, but my cousin said, nah, Duke, we got somebody already. But I didn't even think about bringing you as a date.
That's hilarious.
I didn't think our relationship. I thought, you have a girl, man.
I was so like joking, but I really wanted to come off as serious. And Joe
He
ate
was-
the bait, like
I
the whole
did.
bait. I was like, I'm gonna just keep this going.
He was hurt. You felt that knot in your
Nah,
stomach.
he
He was
hurt.
like,
It's
oh,
like,
shit, dog.
it's like,
Fuck, you're right. Why didn't I ask you?
No, I didn't. No, I wouldn't have asked him.
that's
It's
funny.
okay.
But
No,
I
it's
did
all
feel the
good.
hurt. I was like, my bad, bro. My fault.
You guys
my
are
fault.
so hilarious.
You'll be there with me in spirit. You'll be there with me in spirit. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah, just get a chair set aside and put me on the FaceTime.
that'd be okay. That'd
That's
be dope.
fair.
I'll bring the Muppet.
The Muppet gets invited before me.
Yeah,
I'm telling
nah.
you, once that Muppet's out, that's gonna get all the special treatment.
He's gonna sit here.
I was just
Right.
I'm
we're
gonna get
have
you
a
back on the
podcast.
camera over
Right.
there, and I'm gonna have you.
stop.
the
This
Muppet.
is gonna transition into a full puppet show, and then it's over.
Listen.
Yes, we are.
Cut it out.
Now I already
That's
had
next.
the specs made.
Yeah, we already got Nats coming next.
Oh fuck! You're gonna have to make like interchangeable hair. Sometimes I gotta get.
Yeah,
some
I'm gonna
way.
have the ones that
Why
you just
are my
like.
hands so sweaty?
It's
What
so
is the
clammy.
fucking-
It's gonna have like a little pore things, like it's gonna shoot out water from your head.
Oh, that's perfect.
Like a mist just
That
comes
is
out.
amazing. I love that because that's a great characterization of me. Like
It's like, oh god,
a
oh.
hand, but like with like a cloud and then rain.
just like.
So, each of our Muppets have superpowers.
Yeah, based on the weird things that happen with our body.
That makes sense. Mine would be like on
Yo, my mind was
fire.
somewhere else. I don't know why I just did. I got a wild mind.
Oh, we gotta have that little bald puppet.
Bald puppet. Yeah, I found a photo of me with hair. I sent it to y'all.
Yeah. you
Oh,
saw
so
it?
this is gonna look weird because they're gonna be like, who is
His
that
hair is
puppet? It looks
luxurious,
like
man.
Joe, but it has hair. So it's like,
I chose the. I was telling my friends last night. I was showing
but
that.
you can't go back. You could go back, but you can't go back.
I could go back.
Nah, bro. If you grew out hair, that's just gonna look weird, bro. You're
That's gonna
gonna
look
look like
weird.
Joe Budden.
He's
What?
bald. He's
Yeah,
bald.
no. He had
All for that one episode.
Oh,
that episode, he had
pre-Budden.
hair like on his head. Joe Budden had hair on his head.
And he was mad confused.
I was like, this
Is that his
weird.
brother? His evil
Right.
brother?
So his brother, he's gonna have to cut that because this looks a little
he
weird.
chose the ball too, though.
I bet he did.
Sometimes you guys gotta choose it, man.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
I
But-
guess. Don't fucking stop. I'll come over here with a bald cap and fuck you guys up in the head.
I'd be like, what? I was like, what's going on?
I'll do it with
Like,
my
you're
eyebrows
next.
too. They're
For
gonna
some
be like,
reason, I want to make a boiled egg or something.
Yeah, you stupid.
I get
man.
triggered.
But yeah, the
like
Cali
boiled
trip
eggs,
was
too.
Cali trip was dope.
Memorable.
We had a really, really fun time. I did
That's
not want to
awesome.
leave. I was very, very close to extending it. Like, very, very close. If I didn't have stuff to do, very, very close. So we had that. We'll probably go back out there soon. Shout out to Alex and Cheyenne. They were amazing hosts.
Right.
You know what I mean? Shout out to Zane for hooking that up,
Right.
making that happen. That was really, really dope. Really good time. Hopefully next time we get Nat out there.
Yes, I was thinking about that.
And Tay, I don't think he could be on this episode. I reached out. We'll see if he chimes in at some point. We'll
Definitely
see.
gotta bring Tay.
Oh
Yes.
yeah, 100%. Now we're trying to get Tay to move up here.
Right.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And then we're gonna have to shift into the living room because we're gonna have a fourth person. Then we're gonna have to shift the studio on over to the other
Oh,
room.
yeah.
Right.
Well, I like the yellow background. It's
You like the
nice.
yellow?
Yeah, it's
We'll
nice.
switch. We'll switch right now.
That's nice. I like yellow. It's bright and happy.
Yes, that's why. See, that's why I like your background because it was like the vibes.
Yeah, it's nice.
See?
It's really nice.
But other than that, we did have some bad news over the last few days regarding DMX. DMX passed away. It was April 9th. April 9th he passed away. He was actually, for about a week, he was in a vegetative state. It was from a heart attack. They don't really know exactly 100%. They haven't stated yet if the heart attack was or not from an overdose. There was rumors, there was speculations, but there was nothing set in stone that it was 100% an overdose. I think it was just speculations. So we were not sure about that. But I don't know about y'all, like that really, really hit a chord with me. And I didn't realize, like I always knew how impactful he was in my life, but I didn't really, really, really realize it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
What about y'all? With y'all? Because I know you were a fan of him.
Yeah, I was a major fan. So I was paying attention the moment I heard, and I was like still just looking online, getting updates, and I'm saying to myself like that was just wild. Just because that came out of note, because we already like starting the year, we lost like Kobe in 2020, and then now it was like there was more major people after that, Chadwick Boseman, and then this year rolling in with more deaths, and then like DMX, and you're like Jesus. So it's just like a lot of it's kind of like we're still rolling in. I feel like there hasn't been time to have grief. Because of the amount of like deaths that's been going on. Like it's like you still get hit with a new one, and you're just like, I haven't had time to grieve yet.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel. So with DMX kind of just added to the pot of just like, all right, gotta find some time to sit down with this one. You know what I'm saying? And I've been listening to his music because I was like, honestly, in terms of like rappers, I was the only one I really was like heavy with. Like growing up, like long term and whatnot. So it's just like it was like the Linkin Park for like me as well. Like that was like Linkin Park was the rock part, and then like DMX was like the rap part in terms of like emotion and like getting it out. Yep.
Word. Nat, did you ever listen to X, or did you?
Yeah, actually, my father had a big hip hop influence on me, and he had all these CDs, like actual CDs. Still, you know, he had never sold them, and he used to play them in his car all the time. And you know, I think about that, and I think about just the memories that it gave with me, how me and my father bonded over hip hop, and just, you know, as well, something that we appreciated about X was that he always stayed authentic to himself. Like he truly, even when he got money, he dressed the same. He, you know, was the same. He was honest to himself, and he put himself out there. Is something that it's incredibly hard to do. You know, and by putting himself out there, he was able to be relatable to regular kids like us.
Right.
You know, whatever the emotion was, whether it was like facing some type of hardship or, you know, addiction or abuse or that kind of thing. I think anybody who felt that kind of hardship could easily compare and appreciate his music, because man, I mean, his stuff is going to be timeless, truly, you know. And to see this loss, to me, it feels like a big loss in hip hop. You know, and I compare like that, like to the Chester Bennington thing. Like that was a big thing too growing up. My mom, major rock and alternative influence on me, and we bonded over rock music in that sense. And it's like this happens and you realize, you know, these people are real people with real problems and real things, and his family's grieving over this as well, you know. And so it's just it really is a tragedy. It's a real tragedy.
Yeah. 100%. And even through this, though, we still have to celebrate his life and his legacy, and hopefully, you know,
That's right.
he's now in a better place. But like, you know, I wanted to kind of share my story with X because he was very, very, very influential. And for me, you know, I was 8 years old, right? So when I came upon X. X was actually the first person to ever introduce me to hip hop. I had no idea what hip hop was. I never heard of anything like it. I never even knew what R&B was. I never knew. I had no idea. You know, I was surrounded in a household with classic rock, with like the Beatles and all those type of things, and I just had no idea that rap even existed, you know? And I stumbled upon the CD. I think it was, shout out to my friend Georgie or Johnny. They were all into it, you know, but we were so young yet, so we weren't really like sharing music yet. We were like 8 years old, and I somehow stumbled upon it. And I'll never forget. It just, yo, that shit, it spoke to me so much. You know what I'm saying? It spoke to me, and it was crazy because it was such a impactful moment in my life because the shit he was speaking on, it was what I was really going through in real time. Like, when I picked up that album, it was late 98, early 99. I was listening to it, and by in like 99, you know, that's when my mom already was addicted to heroin. She just started becoming addicted, and I was able to see. I was such a kid, but I didn't know, like, you know, when like a kid's like 9 or 8, they don't really know yet what's going on, but they know what's going on.
Yeah, you can feel things, but you can't put words to it.
And he put the words to it. He was the one that put the words to it, and he also put the words to my feelings, which was crazy. And also to really, when you dig deep into that stuff, like, you could always say, hey, maybe music might help you, maybe it doesn't. Mm-hmm. So maybe it was detrimental in some ways too, but I was listening to those records and I felt like I knew exactly what he was saying. Like, it was crazy because I was like 9 years old, and like I remember listening to those records. I remember the streets I was on listening to those records, like just being in my zone, listening to like Lord Give Me a Sign and all those different records and the prayers,
Slipping.
Yeah, like all of those records. Really, yeah. And it was like, as a young kid that didn't know how to put his emotions together and didn't really have no one to talk to about it, because the person that I did always would have to go to was, well, one going through the mess. You know what I'm saying? It was my mom. My mom was always that person, you know, as a young kid. And, you know, I was young. So it was like, for me, he did a lot, you know, and he really just, he got me through a lot of those moments as an early kid. You know, it was definitely like some music therapy shit. It helped me mature too. I felt like I was grown as fuck. Like, I can go back to those times and I could tell you I felt grown. Like, maybe it was listening to his records, maybe it was whatever it was doing for me. It made me feel I was like fucking 20 years old, being like 8 and 9. It was so weird, you know. But being able to share a lot of those emotions was so real. So, and then, so that's on like a, you know, a mental health aspect of where he helped me. And then it was like, even musically in hip hop, I didn't realize it, but I hold the bar to every rapper, and I always compare them to X without even realizing it. Like, I had to really go back and listen to all the music I listened to. It was DMX, and then it was Eminem. Mm-hmm. I fucked with M because he was just like another X. You know, he was very pure in his lyrics. He was, you know, he gave you the emotion. Like, obviously the singles and the whatnot, that's cool. Even his singles and whatnot, they were cool. They were fire. But I'm talking about the real records, the introspective records, you know? M had that. And then after that, Joe Budden had that. So I started realizing, like, damn, that's why I sometimes have such a high standard in introspective music, because I'm comparing it to X. He was the first one. He's the one that set the bar, you know? So now if, like, you don't give me that introspective real shit, it's hard for me to really relate to it.
It seems like it's not enough. Yeah.
So I never really kind of looked at it like that. I just knew that was what I liked, but I kind of didn't get it. I was like, damn, well, I started with X. Mm-hmm. No wonder, you know, how some people might have listened to Tupac first, and maybe, you know, that was like, because that was very poetic and introspective as well. So it was just crazy. Like, when you realize sometimes how impactful someone is. Also, you know, shit. I want to tell people, anyone that's listening to this, like, if you have an artist that you would want to go to a concert, or you would want to do any of that with, just go to the concert because you never know when they're gonna go. Like that was one thing I wish I did when I was a kid. I wish I would have went to one of his shows. I wish I would have somehow. I ended up making it happen when I got older. I went to like an M show and I go to Joe shows. But like when I was younger, I still should have found a way to like make that happen. So and he taught us so much. Anyone that was a real fan of him, he taught us so much too, and also how not to judge someone because of how introspective he was and how real he was about his emotions and stuff. It kind of helped, I think, teach people like, don't why are we judging him? He's going through his battles. He shared that with us. He shared his pain. He shared how he felt. He shared his different personalities because he had Earl, he had Damien, and he had DMX. He had 3 different personalities, and he shared all those different personalities with the world in his music. So it I don't know. He was a legend already, and he's a legend now. I will say, I'm glad now that he's getting the flowers. Like the world gave him his flowers before. They did in interviews and stuff like that. But I'm glad now he's getting his flowers, and hopefully his messages that he's left, because he's left so much timeless messages in his music.
Right. He had a speech before he had passed. Maybe you could like add it as a snippet in this episode. But he had a speech, and just like the first 30 seconds, you already locked in. And I think the video was like maybe 3 minutes long or something like that. And he was just dropping knowledge. Like it's like he knew something. You know what I'm saying? Like people go through the shit and they kind of just do something like after. Yeah. Like that was the kind of like the message he was saying. Like it was like a farewell before he knew it was gonna happen. Because he lived the life to where he knew he would always go. Because he didn't want to be here. Like he kept it very, very real. And I related to him in that aspect because that's always how my mom felt. Like my mom was like just here, but she didn't want to be here. She was like she believed so much in a higher power in another place that she was like, I don't want to be here. She's like, I just want to be here for you, Joe. Stuff like that. And I think that's kind of the way he was. He got to a point where he was such a believer in God too. And he was such a believer in his faith and whatever his beliefs were. He was just like, yo, like I know my issues, I know my demons, so I'm always gonna share and be real, because I don't think he even thought he was gonna make it to 50. He had a lot of life.
Yeah,
that was wild, man. And we have a lot of like legendary rappers, and they're getting into their 50s. You know what I'm saying? That like
doesn't always happen.
Hip hop is
far
now
and few
getting
in between.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Hip hop is now starting to age.
Yeah.
You're right, and that's one conversation that happens a lot. Like that's one thing M talks about a lot. He was like, because he was questioning to retire, and then he was like, actually, why? He's like, we are the ones, him, Jay, all them. We can make now the decision. This is so new that we don't know. Like there's rock and roll artists that are doing it at 70, 60. So why do they have to stop?
Yeah,
right.
So that's another conversation in it too.
And they sell out.
Yeah, for sure, because they're gonna like the artist. You like the artist shit, Listen,
yeah, Springsteen selling out.
Yeah,
like you know what I'm saying.
I mean, come on, who wouldn't buy a concert a Pac ticket if he was alive still? You know, or Big Pun. I would have paid to see that person perform. Queen, Freddie Mercury. Prince. I have clients that were lucky enough to watch him perform live at his peak. To have been there,
the same records. They don't have to make new music.
Yeah.
Right.
They could just be doing the same stuff because people love it that much.
That's why when I heard Daft Punk when they like said they were done, I was like, what? that was like the staple of like me making like house music. When I was making house music, like that was them. It was Daft Punk that got me into house music in as a whole, and that was before they became like the mainstream. It was like when they were hot in the 90s. I was like listening to them. Yeah, shout out to Daft Punk.
Word, shout
they're
out to
awesome.
Them. Also, just the last thing on that too is with his battles with his addictions, I'll tell you, I was really, really happy a few months ago. I was watching. I'm a fan of Hitmaker. Hitmaker's Young Berg, if you don't know. Hitmaker's he was a former executive for Atlantic Records, and he started working with DMX when he was really, really young. So it was interesting. It was an interesting connection because DMX in the beginning was the popular one, and Young Berg was like nobody at that point. And then it was crazy how now Young Berg is this huge mega producer and stuff like that. And he ended up, once DMX got clean, he started working with him, and he was like, "Yo, I'm gonna bring you back to life." And he was in the studio with him like all of quarantine and everything, working with him and putting out records, and not putting them out, like here's an album done that he finished and that they were about to release this summer, that he did with Griselda. He did I think a song with Alicia Keys, did a song with Usher. Like, supposedly there's some amazing talent on this album. And so he was working on that. X looked so excited. Like, I was watching a lot of lives of X and Hitmaker in the studio, and he looked like he was just having really fun.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so
He
dope.
was having fun at the verses.
Mm-hmm.
That exactly. He had that. He had things in it, and he looked healthy, because anyone that's been around an addict, he looked really, really good, and that's what I enjoyed. He looked great. He had a little weight on him, and his face was full, and all those different things, and it was dope seeing him like that. And then obviously this happened, and like I said, we still don't clarify what it is, if it was from an overdose or whatever, but it's just crazy how I've heard this story too many times. It's happened in my own life with my mother. It's happened, X amount of times where you hear people overdose or people pass away, whatever, right after they make a life change, right after they say, and we edit it into therapy, because I've heard that message so much, that, you make a change in your life and you're like, yo, I'm gonna go to rehab, or you go to rehab, you get clean.
You make the commitment.
Yeah, you do whatever it is you got to do to become clean. And then the world says no. And the world takes you. Like my mom, right before she passed, she put a thing on Facebook, like, "Hey guys, wish me luck. I'm about to go apply for a bunch of jobs." And it's like that you're trying to turn your life over. And then bang, you go. I hear that shit way too many times. And what I just wanted to tell our listeners was, like, I think the universe gives you X amount of chances. It gives you a certain amount of chances to change and kind of be, to do what you got to do really in life, and to cut the shit, to cut your addictions or whatever, to fix your shit, right? I think the world gives you X amount of times. And then I think at a certain point, it says, you know what? We're not going nowhere. You know what I'm saying? Like, you still fucking up, or I don't, I don't see it. And then they take you, and I think it uses you as a lesson, and it uses you as a sacrifice. I think it uses you for something greater. So, just something to think about. Like, if you have things going on in your life, if you're doing things or whatever, in my opinion, just think about that. I think, you're only going to be able to do your whatever you're doing so many times before the universe says, you know what, we're going to turn you into a lesson. Because I'm a believer in that. I'm a believer that, at the end of the day, we'll be used for a sacrifice for something so much greater. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'd be thinking about that shit with my mom. I'd be thinking about with her addiction, like, yeah, she was taken away, but so that sacrifice had to happen because she wasn't making that change. And then I got to a point where it was like, you know what, you're not making that change. We got to use you an example. We're going to use you for something greater. We're going to use you to end up helping Joe think of therapy without a degree, and then helping X amount of people and bringing us together and doing that. So just things to think about,
You know what? I think, when we have these kind of feelings of grief and people pass away, it almost feels like a great injustice has been done, right? Like, how could this person be taken away from us in this way? But life is fucking messy. And I don't think, because, like, especially when these things happen, when our parents die, or when, or somebody so young passes away, and you think, damn, they had their whole life ahead of them. Like, I feel like sometimes things are just by chance that things happen. And there's no one to blame, and there's no explanation. And, we kind of have to sit with all this grief, and some people can't take it. You know what I'm saying? And that kind of inability to take it, and that's not a flaw. You know what I'm saying? It's not a flaw that some people can't take the pain that life kind of throws at them, because we all kind of going to, like, how we grieve and how we kind of compartmentalize and deal with these feelings of grief and trying to answer those unanswered questions, whether they give us comfort or closure. Some people will grieve in ways that are incredibly self-destructive, and it turns into a vicious cycle almost, you know, where you grieve, you're sad, whatever, you take that action that might harm yourself even more. You're either, you know, bodily harm or mental harm, or maybe self-sabotaging, or maybe pushing your friends away. Those are all different actions, you know what I'm saying, that one can take that are self-destructive, due to their grief around people around them dying. You know what I'm saying? Especially we're very, very inherently social, a social species. And I think a big part of that kind of coping mechanism, negative coping mechanisms perhaps, might just have to do with trying to deal with that grief in that way, and maybe things that we've learned, you know, because it's you can't compare a grief of, like, for example, a child as opposed to like an adult, where we have I think the ability and maybe the wherewithal, or even the hindsight, let's say the hindsight, to reflect on things that we may have done in the past and then say, I'm not going to grieve that way. I'm going to grieve this way, in a way that's maybe not self-destructive and maybe constructive for my well-being. And maybe instead of pushing my friends away, I'm going to bring them together. Or maybe, you know, instead of drinking something to make my feelings go away, I'm going to journal it. And it's like, in those changes, we can be the people that we really want to be, as opposed to allowing this grief to eat us from the inside out. Because let me tell you guys something, you cannot escape your own mind.
No, you cannot, no matter what.
You cannot escape it. And the moment you try, you're already failing. You know, the only chance that we have at potentially grieving and maybe even getting over something, no matter how hard that might be. And that's not to say, you know, 10 years might pass in somebody's death and you still feel those feelings. That doesn't mean that you haven't grieved. You get what I'm saying? I think that these are human feelings, to miss people and to wish that they were here with you, to experience these things with us, in a way that is meaningful and that we can kind of still share these experiences with them. But I like to say, maybe, you know, when these people pass away, a good way of maybe even remembering them or honoring them is taking the best things about them and perhaps pushing them forward in that way. Either, you know, engaging in actions they might have engaged in that were positive or that were thoughtful or that were memorable to you, or making some type of maybe a memory book or a memory box with things like them, or a shadow box with some of their personal items, or maybe write a letter to them even if they passed away or something like that. Like, these are all coping mechanisms. And I'm no therapist, but I have grieved a lot. I have grieved a lot. And there's a lot of really, really great, you know, online projects that are free. They're counseling things that you can call if you need help. You know, if you are grieving through this, whether it's, you know, a passing of a celebrity or a passing of a very, very close loved one, or a child or a parent, or whatever it is, you know, there's ways to talk to people and get to people, so that way you don't feel like you don't have to live, because the grief is so much that you want to harm yourself, or you might not want to exist anymore, because guess what? If you don't exist, you can't say anything about that.
Right.
You know? And so if the only chance that we have of kind of moving forward and continuing our life, right, and continuing those positive memories of one person is to continue surviving, well, then we got to do what we got to do. And that might involve some therapy and talking to people. But let's try to be constructive in the ways that we grieve, you know, and not destructive in those things, because it's, you know, especially if you have children, I think, and they're seeing you grieve this way, it only creates a potential habit that might happen when they have to grieve, because we all have to do it at one point. We're all going to lose people. Unless you isolate yourself and you don't build any kind of relationships, you are going to grieve and lose people and deal with these things that are incredibly difficult to deal with. But life is messy, you know, and sometimes we don't have a reason for these things that happen, but we can find a reason to live. And that has to be kind of like the forefront of it, you know?
Deep.
1,000%.
Yeah, in terms of grieving in an alternative way for me, I'd probably say I kind of translate that into like a story.
Yeah.
Like, so I
I could see
turn,
that.
yeah, I take my drama and I write it down and I turn it into a story. Obviously, I take myself out of it, but like anytime I deal with it, I kind of just, I give those human elements to a character that I created for that story. So say if I went through a thing where I may have like lost a friend or something like that, then one of the characters lost a friend, their main character. They have to go through that internal battle and then deal with an external. So
Yes.
my characters, they pull from my internal battles and I give it to them, and then I create the creative part is like whatever external battles that they're going through.
I think that's an awesome way of being able to kind of cope or grieve or deal with like issues and put it out there. And it's just such an artistic, creative way to do it as well.
Right.
Where other people even can see it and relate to it and kind of compartmentalize, go through their feelings.
Right.
What about you, Joe?
For me, I mean, it depends. I have two different kind of methods, right? Well, I have one method that I do kind of like almost naturally, and then I have one that I have one side to it that I actually do more often. So I mean, typically, I'm not gonna lie, I'm the type of person that I know I'm like out of sight, out of mind, right? But so a lot of times I just won't think about things on purpose. Like I will try to not put myself in sight of certain things because then I'm gonna start thinking about it and get my feelings. That's probably how I did most of my life, especially when I was younger. You know, I just wouldn't think about it. I would just distracted myself with work and stuff. But then as I got older and probably when I did have my major loss with my mom, you know, it was bad, but I will say, thank God, you know, we talked about it so much. We talked about it often. You know, my mom was very, very in tune with like real life because she grieved. And that's one thing I'm going to get into as well is her grieving process, how it was so different than mine. But, you know, we talked about it often. Like my mom was around death a lot. And she was like, you know, she kept it real with me and she knew her issues and stuff. So she would always talk to me and be like, yo, when I go, like, it's going to be okay, you know, this and that. So like, I felt a little bit like, okay, I have my closure at least, you know, to where I ain't gonna lie. Like I've had situations and people that just like out of nowhere, they're gone and they die or they walk out of your life and stuff like that. And those are a little harder sometimes when it's like an instant, like you don't know, like everything is different. Like how you agree for every situation is going to be completely different. So for me in that aspect, yes, it was a little easier, but it was still extremely hard, you know? But, and I still tried to just put it on the back burner. I still tried just to not think about it. But until I had that moment that I knew she was here with me, like I always had questions about like my faith or not even faith, like what I believed in. If I believed that when someone passes away, are they still going to feel my presence? Am I going to feel their presence? Am I going to know that they're still around more than just physically? I always had those questions. I didn't know because you just don't know. Until she actually passed and until like a year or two went on. And then I had things that I can say to this day, I personally believe I know she's like around watching. Like she could be in the room. She could be wherever, like in this room, like I know I just have certain things to me that I'm like, I'm obviously not 100% sure, but I'm pretty damn sure because of I will have conversations. You know what I'm saying? I would talk to them. Like that's my grieving process. It's like literally, you know,
that's your mechanism.
Yeah. Like we'll have conversations, you know what I mean? Not like, you know, I'm not sitting here having like that type of a conversation where I'm fucking crazy, but like on some real shit, like, you know, you have some, like whatever, if you want to call it prayer, whatever you want to call it, you know what I'm saying? I would do a lot of that. And, once I started getting really, really deep with it and I started really, really also getting really pretty hurt and just sick of life, those two things together, kind of once those two things kind of put together, she showed me in that moment that she was here. When I was at my lowest moment, when I wanted to give up, she showed me, you know, that she was here through multiple different avenues and shit. And just my ideologies of perception and perspective. Once I all those things kind of came together around the same time, I was like, okay, my grieving was so much easier.
It transitions. It becomes something that's like, okay, this is how I'm gonna live my life.
Exactly.
As opposed to being something that we just do. And I think these are just awesome ways of just being able to grieve and cope with different things, whether, you know, if it's like at the extreme of like losing somebody via death, or even just maybe conflicts that we're having internally by maybe losing friends that, like you said, like people that walked out of our lives, or, you know, losing relationships and things like that. Like, we can grieve the loss of somebody who walked out of our life that is still alive. We can grieve the loss of friend breakups, right?
Yeah.
Because it's very real. And all of these are just awesome ways of coping with those negative feelings that we have, that are human feelings, that are very human, but they're not going anywhere if we don't deal with them.
That's the thing. You have to actually try to deal with them because,
Exactly.
you know,
They'll just bubble up.
they'll
and
bubble up.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and it becomes something more than what it is, you know, and yeah. You know, we're adults, but, you know, we all know that kid that got into a fight and just blacked out. And then you're thinking, like, that had nothing to do with that
Right.
other guy.
That's always the worst, when you're just like, yo, I'm
And
really
that could be any one of
I'm
us.
afraid for you for when I black out. You didn't do any of the stuff you did. Really, it's like it went past that.
Yeah, and
you know?
and you know, to that extent, that I want to segue that into saying, you know, you're not responsible for somebody else's, how they cope or how they grieve or how they might deal with stuff, and the baggage that they have, you know. But when you are friends with somebody, or when you love somebody, or you care about somebody, and you share close space and close relationships and things like that, there's ways that we can help and learn from each other and provide each other the tools that we might, you know, need to get through these moments, you know. And so, you know, I say that to say that, coping with grief is an inside-outside game, meaning, you know, you need community effort in regards to having communication with different people that might have different, you know, tactics of how to cope, and the internal work that you have to do when nobody's watching, of really assessing those feelings in yourself, and analyzing them and sitting with that thing, because, you know, my trauma is not somebody else's responsibility. You know, it's only my responsibility. And that means that I am not allowed to put my trauma on somebody else's lap and say, okay, here, now this is yours. That's not fair. That's not fair for our friends. That's not fair for our family. That's not fair for anybody around us. So there's a way to balance this kind of stuff as well, you know, and it's dealing with our shit and also letting our friends in as well, and the people that we love in, you know, to help with us in that sense as well.
You're right. And, you know, at that same time, though, like you said, you do have to be able to still reach out to people to maybe have that different insight, or like this, to listen to different people's and how they grieved. And because if you just, you know, if you grieve the wrong, like there's definitely, I think, wrong ways to grieve.
Yeah, that's the
Don't get it
destructive
twisted.
aspect.
You know what I'm saying? Like there's wrong, like, and there's just detrimental ways, like, you know, you, like I'll bring it right back to my mom, because she started her addiction. That's how she grieved. You know, she lost. It wasn't just like she just picked it up. It was exactly how she grieved, because 3 of her brothers passed away from it, and she got to the point where she got angry, and she was like, "I want to see why they couldn't stop." That's what she told me, and she was very real. She's like, "I want to see why they couldn't stop. What was so hard about it that they couldn't stop?"
Because it's not the drug by itself.
Yeah.
It's our mind
It's
and everything
everything,
else around us.
And then it got to the point where she got hooked, and then it was just like, and then it was, I just want to be numb. You know, that's why the song "Comfortably Numb" by Pink Floyd is such a powerful song to me, and it was to her, and that's how she wanted to feel. She always wanted to be numb. She didn't want to go through the motions and go through the hard part and go and reflect. And those times are hard. Like when we say these grievings, they're hard.
We talk about it now, you know, and to all the levels that we kind of talk about it now, because we've all been through something that has been life-changing, right? That was associated with something grieving like that. And it's not easy, guys. This is like years and years and work. And sometimes you're going to be triggered. You know, and there's times when dates are going to come around and you're going to have feelings. What can we do? I can't run away from this stuff. You know what I'm saying? I personally can't run away from it. So the only way is through. And, you know, so long as my heart is beating, I'm going to survive through it, you know? So no sadness will make it so much so that it'll make give me a heart attack, I guess. But we have to try, right? It's worth a shot. No?
I think people don't have options because we actually like research stuff.
Yeah.
And no one really like when you go through it, you don't like, oh, let me just look online or YouTube and or let me find like you're not even thinking about it because you don't even realize that you're grieving until people look at you like, yo, you all right?
Yeah, exactly. Hey, haven't been eating much. Oh, hey, we haven't reached out. Things like that. Certain things that might be of interest. Like, oh, maybe this person's not doing okay.
Right.
You know.
It's tough because like you said, we all grieve different, and you know when you're hurting, you're hurting, and you're in those ways, you know. Sometimes you're not looking on YouTube. You don't want to look at YouTube. You don't want to look at anything.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's just, you know, everyone does it different ways, and there's no way for us to tell you how to do it.
For sure.
But just try to do something positive because, you know, and it sounds so simple too, but you know, what I tell people a lot of times when it happens is I always say, think about them. How would they want you to feel in this moment? If you know them so much that you're feeling this way, how would they want you to feel? And I know it's way easier said than done, but just on some real shit. Like that really helped me too. In a lot of moments, I'm like, yo, my mom, if I was over here down and out, she would like slap me like, yo, get it together, Joe. Like, or whatever. Like just, you know, like she would not want me feeling this way, you know? And also, you know, I'm a firm believer too of having these real conversations with people. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, I talk to this guy a lot. I'm like, yo, if I go, you call Jaylene, you do these things. I'm like, whatever. But like, you know, these are important conversations to have with your loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know, like, I don't care how young we are.
Anything could happen, man.
Anything can happen. So it's like, you know, it kind of goes back to our talk about the emergency planning and things like that. But like, you know, it's all going to happen. There's very, very few things in the world that we have guarantees of. And unfortunately, we all are going to go. And we never know. So you'll never ever be prepared for a death as much as you think. However, you could have a conversation with somebody. You could say, you know what, Zane, if I go tomorrow, I want to let you know I love you, and I would want you to maybe do this. I would want that. I wouldn't want you to feel the type of way, whatever. But it's like you have to have those conversations.
Right. Like no one just goes like, hold on, let me just record this last message. Yeah. Like you see in the movies where they just have
It's never that perfect.
It's never that perfect. Oh, I had this USB, you know, just give this like
you find it in the bookshelf.
Right. But you know what's crazy though?
No one does that.
You have to start doing that. And
right.
It's crazy, but it's gotten to that point where like I think some people get to it depending on where you are, and also sometimes how often you go through death or how often you've been around death. Like I've been around some shit, so like I've gotten to that point where I start be thinking like, yo, like I was thinking about the other day, I was like, yo, I might want to just record episodes to not even release and just have when I go. Stuff like that. I be thinking about that shit. So we are back from a quick commercial break.
And
we are good.
I don't know if you want to continue off that story that you mentioned before.
Yeah,
because that's what we ended.
Yeah,
off.
We were kind of segueing into writing wills and kind of you know, where your energy goes. This is what's gonna happen. So we're talking about, you know, I wrote like a letter basically when I was suicidal, and I just wrote it, you know, and I never showed anybody it, and I just had it, and I had thrown it in a bag, put it in storage, whatever. Years later, years and years passed. And, you know, this is around some of the same time when I was going through, like, you know, what I would consider postpartum depression. And now I remember, you know, when I moved, was cleaning stuff out. I completely forgot about it, but it was something that these feelings that I had that I just had to get off and get into paper. And it's like, you know, our mind plays tricks on us. And it's important to know that especially when you're feeling sad and this down, and I think anybody who has had or has felt suicidal at some point understands what it means when I say at that moment it seems like a good choice, But as you get some time under your belt, and you really just let yourself kind of feel those things, like I said, writing stuff down and talking to your friends about it, you really grasp the entirety of how permanent that is, and how it affects the people around you, how it's going to affect your friends, and how it's going to affect your family, and how they have to pick up the pieces when you're gone, when something like that happens. When time goes on and things do get better and you look back, hindsight is 2020, and you realize how silly it might have been to even think those things or feel those things, but it was truly how you felt. And a lot of times we really have to analyze those feelings for what they are, which are reactions to things that are happening at that specific moment, but things change with time. And if this is our response to something that may have happened at that specific time, that means that our response can change with different scenarios. So, if you can, it's not like you're thinking yourself out of depression. That's not what I'm going for, or even wishful thinking. I mean to say, finding ways that you can even deal with something daily as a means of saying, hey, I'm going to make today better than the next in whatever way that I can. I'm going to make good memories. I'm going to try to make certain things. I'm not going to wait for things to happen. I'm going to kind of make things happen that give me a reason to live and to move forward and to keep enjoying this life. And before you know it, you're not there anymore, and you're living life. Living life is a verb. You got to do it. There's no way around it.
1,000%.
No?
And it's perspective too on how you see things.
Sometimes you need space and time to be able to put something behind you and have different feelings about something, because things change so much with time. And you got to give yourself that time, instead of being being harsh with your decision making at a specific moment. Really take your time and think about those actions, because some actions are temporary and some actions are incredibly permanent, and have a very long standing effect on other people around you. So, yeah, think about those things.
And you're loved, even if you don't see it right now in this moment, you are loved.
There's someone out there that loves you.
And loves your presence, loves when they see you. One quick story right before we go that you just reminded me of, and it really would just kind of explain how much perspective, too, can change your life. And even in those moments, too, like perspective will change your whole entire life. So this was a story Inky Johnson shared, and he was like, okay, there was one time, it was a nursing home. There was two elderly men, and they each had two beds. There was one bed in there, and there was another bed, and then there was a divider in between the room. And the two guys would see each other every day, and they would talk. And the guy on the far side would always talk to the other guy. The other guy was able to get out and look at the window. Every day he would look out the window. He would look out there, and then the other guy would say, hey, man, what do you see? Tell me about it, because he couldn't really get up. He couldn't really move too well. And he was like, what's going on, man? How is it today? How is it outside? And the guy would tell him, he was like, it's beautiful. There's flowers. There's people walking. He would explain what he saw every single day, and he would always say it. He said how amazing it was. And then, one day he passed away, right? The guy that was on the window side passed away, and it was just the other guy. And then the other guy was like, he was in his grief and he was in his moment. And he told the nurse, he was like, hey, nurse, since my buddy's, passed away, can I take that bed instead? I would love to have that view and be able to look out every day and take a look at, what's outside. And she said, okay. So, eventually they moved him over. And then he looked out the window and he goes, well, what happened? When did they change what was outside? It was like a wall. It was a wall. He was like, when did they change it? He was like, my buddy would tell me every day how this was a beautiful outdoor. There was kids playing. There was a beautiful scenery and everything. And she goes, he was blind. The guy was blind the whole time. It was his perspective on how he lived his life. He looked out every single day into that window. He looked out every single day. And he said it was a beautiful day. He would just, like I said, just that's how he saw it. It was his perception of it. Mm-hmm. Imagine how it made him feel, and how it made the other guy feel. People don't think about that. You don't think about the perspective shift. every single thing that ever happens to you, every single thing that will ever make you feel upset, anything that will make you're grieving, or to even think about, like you said, with suicide or whatnot, I promise you, start changing your perspective. And I guarantee once you start doing that shit, it'll
And
change your
don't
life.
isolate yourself, because that is the thing that will make it worse. If you isolate yourself, and sadly a lot of people did go through that, right, during the pandemic, where they were dealing with death and isolation all at once. So reach out to people, because there is still a lot of ways to contact people. So yeah, I'm gonna give a shout out to we're a shout out moment, right?
Yes, yeah, of course. Yeah.
So I'm gonna give a shout out to first, the Secular Therapy Project. You can always call their hotline. They have therapists on the line ready to go. It's free. If you want to volunteer, please do so. They always need help with volunteers. And inclusivetherapy.com as well. They have an incredible selection of therapists that you can choose based on their ethnic background, their specific knowledge on what kind of counseling that they do, whatever kind of specific faith that you might follow. You can choose a specific practitioner that follows that faith as well, or lack thereof, or you can choose the gender of the person that is their therapist. I mean, they really get into it, and it is an incredible resource. In all of America, you can find a therapist there. And these are two really great online projects that y'all can look up, that you can either participate in anonymously, or you can give them your name and decide to kind of seek a full-on therapist, whether that's a telehealth, doing therapy via like Zoom, or going in person. And as we know, therapy is in a lot of ways a privilege. So it does help to have these programs that are free, because therapy can be anywhere between $80 to $250 for an hour session, depending on whether it is a sliding scale or not. But there are people that can help you if you are feeling this way. So definitely get the help that you need.
If you can too, put that in the group too, if you can.
Yeah.
In the therapy group and the Facebook group. That's really dope. That's really useful. What's the name of it again?
The first one is called Secular Therapy Project, which focuses on therapists who specialize in various religions, whether it's like spiritual stuff or just lack of religions, like atheist groups. And then the other one is inclusivetherapy.com. And they have an incredible, just a very eclectic choice of therapists from all different backgrounds, from all different faiths, all different genders. I mean, it's there, and the thing, it's there for people to see that these are great programs. So
Word. Dope. Zane, you got anything?
Yeah, I'm gonna shout out the show called Invincible. It's on Amazon. Yeah, it's an animated show, and it's like brutal, like rated R, brutal.
yes, I heard it was incredible.
Yeah, it was really incredible. It was and it's a dope show. And then the lead actor, his name is I think it's Steven something, and he's an Asian actor, and it's a lead character. And I like that. It's to have that even like happen is like, thank God. Like let's get
That's
more of those.
accurate,
Yeah,
please.
accurate, and then more lead roles, because it could have easily been like an Asian character in the show with an actor that was not Asian.
You're like Avatar.
Like Avatar, essentially.
You're like, you have an entire Asian army, but why are your main characters white?
Right.
Okay, guys.
See what I'm saying? So I thought it was great. I think it's a great
I
show.
noticed too.
So that's why I wanted to shout out. And yeah, that's it. That's why I want to shout out.
All right, dope. I'm gonna do my gym, yo. Finally got the fucking pool open again. Yes.
Go Jim.
Oh,
Go
okay.
Jim.
Finally. All right, I've been waiting for the pool.
Joe's secretly a fish.
I love the
be
water,
surprised.
yo. I do,
too.
and I'm hyped to get back in, yo. I actually took the last month off because of my car situation and stuff. So I'm happy to be back. I'm happy to get going again. But I'm really happy about the pool because that's my vibe. Like that's my ultimate workout experience, just to chill in the pool and swim and stuff. So I'm happy. So yeah, shout out to LA Fitness for finally opening up the gym, the pool again. Because I'm like, yo, like I get COVID, but like COVID is on the treadmills too. It's on the treadmills. It's in the pool. Like,
Chlorine probably kills it.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking too. Like, but whatever. Other than that, sorry if this was a little bit of a somber episode, but I do think we dropped a lot of gems. I want y'all to celebrate DMX, celebrate Earl. If you have not listened to his music, please do. His music is very insightful, therapeutic, real, raw. Some of it will just get you hype. You know what I'm saying? Little X gonna give it to you, some records and shit. So just let's have a whole appreciation, time for X. So also, if you want to see a recent interview he did, very, very recent, he dropped a lot of gems and told a lot of interesting stories. He did an interview on Drink Champs. He did that shit about 6 months ago. So other than that, anything else y'all got?
No, it was a pleasure being with you guys.
No, well, that's it.
With love.
Another episode. We're getting close to the 200s. We got to plan something for the 200s.
200.
Have it outdoors.
Outdoors, maybe. Maybe we'll get Tay here for 200.
Yeah.
Maybe. Fire.
We'll see.
All right, people. It's been real. We out. Therapy without a degree. Subscribe to the YouTube.